want you to understand, when you see bulleted lists, this is stuff we're going to go over. The main thrust of this PowerPoint is science and the scientific method and the characteristics of living things. Your big take-home here in red, that means you got to know it, is that biology is the study of life. Low G means study, bio means life. So, the important themes in this chapter, what I wrote here in red as a hint for important themes is you should understand this stuff for the test. What the scientific method is, how we test hypotheses, the difference in good and bad science. I actually have a long infographic about this that I go over. You can do that right here. I would go and read that. I would look at the PowerPoints, but I'm not going to emphasize that as we lecture. We've got so much other stuff to catch up. Ways that you can trust media reports of scientific studies. Anyway, so that's what this point here is. And real-world examples of how to use the scientific method. We'll talk about ways that people screwed up and failed, too. So what is science? Science is a method to answer questions. And we're making observations, experiments that allow us to make evidence-based conclusions. The fact that science is a process or a method is in red. What does that mean?
It's going to be on the test.
It'll be on the test. Okay. What was your answer, right?
I said write it down.
Yeah, write it down. That's a good way to put it, too. Use observations and experiments to make evidence-based conclusions. You are going to see that science should be being the operative word. There's a section in here on how science doesn't always measure up to what it should be. But science should be evidence-based. And that, you're going to do that slide after slide after slide. I really want you to know that. Science should be evidence-based. All right, there's a picture of Neil deGrasse Tyson there. And this is copied straight out of what Tyson said in Cosmos. He said science is strictly adhering to a simple set of rules. You test ideas by experiment and observation. You build on the ideas that pass the test. You reject the ones that fail, and you follow the evidence wherever it leads. Question everything. It's a good definition. The big thing here is a process. I want you to get that it's a process. I want you to get that it's evidence-based. So, in summary of that, how do you know? How do you know things in science? Science is how we understand the natural world, and natural world is the key. Science is things that we can observe and measure the effects of. If you can't observe it, if you can't measure it, it's not science. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. That just means that science can't answer questions that you can't measure or observe the results for. Does that make sense? You have to be able to gather evidence. Now, our goal in science is to be logical, objective, and have everything we say based on keyword. Yeah, you're right, evidence. But we don't always measure up. All right, so this is the way the book broke it down, so the way Tyson broke it down. The natural world, science is based on the natural world as stuff we can detect, observe, or measure. It is evidence-based, that's in red. You gotta know it, okay? Evidence-based. It's subject to peer review. If a scientist says, I have discovered the most amazing thing, and no one else can reproduce it, well, we tend not to believe them. That's happened a lot of times recently. There were two guys out in the 90s, Pons and Fleischmann, University of Utah, they said, I have discovered cold fusion. Nah, they were wrong. There was a scientist in NASA who, 3-4 years ago, she said, make that 5 years ago. She said, I have discovered life, but not as we know it. It uses arsenic instead of phosphorus. Well, there were some guys within the last 2 years who said, we've discovered matter, neutrinos, and they move faster than light. All of these guys make these extraordinary claims, and when other people peer review, when other people try to reproduce the results, they can't. That's how we prove that something is wrong. When the person said arsenic in the DNA instead of phosphorus, a bunch of people right away on science blogs like, yeah, I don't think so. Your technique is all wrong, and they were correct. But it didn't matter. Talking smack about someone's work doesn't make it wrong. In science, the way that we prove it's wrong, yes, you have to pay attention here, is evidence. The way that we finally proved that she was wrong is that somebody went to the same lake, isolated the same microbes, grew them in the same media, then added the step that she hadn't, wash the microbe off before extracting its DNA, and suddenly the arsenic from the lake water is not showing up on the DNA. What happened is when she pulled the DNA out, arsenic on the outside of those cells was contaminating her specimen. And right away when she published, everybody said, oh, you're doing this wrong. That's why you got those results. But saying it is not proof. Having someone else try to repeat it and come to the table with evidence they gathered that says, no, you're wrong. And here is the reason why. So, in science, anything that anyone says is open to an evidence-based challenge. Like I said, talking smack on the science blogs doesn't count. Going to your lab and replicating the results and saying, or replicating the research and getting different results counts. You bring in new evidence and then that researcher has to say, yeah, you're right, I screwed up. And this is why science is, most of the time, a self-correcting process. If other people are doing the peer review, and that's why I said most of the time, the sad thing, and we'll talk more about this, is that it doesn't always have the peer review that it should. But if you have peer review, then you have other people trying to find the same results. If they can, then we say, hey, your explanation of what's happening, we believe this more, we have evidence. If they can't find the same thing, we're like, what are you talking about? You see what's going on? Does this make sense to y'all? Okay, moving on. All right, here's the bad news that I was talking about. Scientists are human. Scientists make mistakes, but there's also fraud and there's also cheating. Basically, Rosalind Franklin, she took a really famous photo. It's called Photo 51. This photo, and you're looking at it like, it's just like a circle with an X in the middle. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Everybody's seen pictures of DNA, right? You've seen DNA, it's like the twisty ladder. The famous twisty ladder, right? What that photo is looking down the shaft, looking down the middle. And what it shows is this nice crisp edge. It's not fuzzy. That was the give off that it's always the same diameter all the way around. This let them figure out how to put those together. Does that make sense? And the guys who got the Nobel Prize, Watson and Crick, Watson wrote a biography. I've heard he claims that, well, she was mean and she was angry and she was coming to hit me, and then her lab partner felt so sorry for her that when she left the lab, he gave me her photo. No! No, that's hogwash. Besides, she was 5'2". She's not a threat. But anyway, that was Watson's claim. This is clearly a case of fraud and cheating. I want you to understand that the science is only as good as the people doing the science. A lot of people hold science up as, oh, and the scientific method, and oh, science. The fact of the matter is that science is no better than the people doing it. You got a bunch of jerks doing it, they'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal. I've got some good examples right here, some of the same ones I was talking about before that you should go and read. These are the links on SlothNut. We all agree scientists are just people and they do some good things and some really bad things. We agree? You agree? All right. I already showed you that you have this infographic. Do read over these slides. Do read over the infographic and the commentary on it. You know how to get to it, right? Where's the link? SlothNut. I put the link in here to 2 stories and the URL so you can actually go and read the news stories. This one's in a British newspaper named The Telegraph. This is at the New York Times. There have been cases of drug companies funding researchers and saying, okay, tell us how awesome my drug is. And the researcher's like, thank you for the money, I'm not so awesome, it kind of sucks. And the drug company's like, well, don't publish that. And then doctors don't know about the side effects and people die. That's what this is about. Go read about it. So right now, one of the corrective measures that scientists are taking is some people are refusing to take money from drug companies unless they get the drug company to sign on the dotted line that the results can still be published. I think that's a move in the right direction. But read about it. It's an issue that's important. Correlation and causation. This is one of the ones on there. We'll talk more about correlation and causation. The short version is that there are some ridiculous claims that are made. Do you think that organic foods are causing autism?
Next year, I mean, the vaccines.
Well, it's not the vaccines. No, it's certainly not. Yeah, that whole what you're talking about are the Wakefield studies where he blamed thimerosal. You do realize that he had his credentials yanked for faking data. So
That's okay. I've been bitten. Ow, he has teeth. Ow, ow, ow.